Welcome back to another episode of Shapes of Resilience in my sauna. It feels so strange because I'm looking out of my sauna window at the car park, and I'm pretty sure whilst recording this solo episode, someone's going to walk past, look in and see me with a mic in my hand, fully clothed in a converted horse box sauna in a car park down at Shelstone Pool in Brixham. But that is okay. For me, one of the biggest lessons I've learned since launching this podcast and having close to 60 conversations now with a whole array of people, the biggest thing that I can pass on from what I've learned is ego is the enemy. And that is the title of a book that I read whilst on holiday last year. And it's so true. The moment we can drop our ego and not let our ego dictate, impact, influence, control any of our decisions or thought processes, we actually step into the person we were always meant to become. And if you think about ego is the enemy, and ego is something that does and can and will always have a big impact on your life if you let it, would you want your enemy to be able to control your life? Would you want your enemy to influence your decisions and have an impact on the way you think and feel? Would you let your ego plan your diary? Would you let your enemy have an influence on how you show up as a father, husband, friend, member of society? If you think about what an enemy is something or somebody that is against you. It's something that isn't your friend. It might pretend to be your friend. And if you think about ego being a very clever enemy that pretends it's got your best interest at heart, and it pretends to care about you, like you, want the best for you, when really all the ego wants is to look after itself. Ego is all about safety, control. It's about being as big as you can externally and for others, but ego cares very little about how happy you are deep down. And all of the things that I've done and the way that I've changed the programming and the way that I think and feel has meant that I challenge my ego at every opportunity. And when it's at its strongest, that is very hard. Because if you leave it too late, then what happens is your ego will look for more and more evidence to present itself as being right all along. And that can be after a long period of being able to bat the ego away. And then all of a sudden something comes up in life and the ego presents itself again with some very convincing ideas that you were wrong all along and you were trying to fool everyone ultimately. That's how clever it can become when you become so aware of it and your own habits and programming and behaviors, things you've always thought because that's just the way that they've been. When you step outside of that and have a period where you're seeing things from a much wider lens, that when you struggle to maintain that for whatever reason, you do convince yourself that you've been wrong all along. So that's been the challenge for me, has been staying clear on my vision, staying clear on the person that I know I'm becoming, the person that I've always been capable of being. And now that I'm there and I'm the closest I've ever been to really stepping into that, the stronger those emotions become, because there's more on the line, there's more risk, there's more fear, there's more that can go wrong, there's more impact that you have on people around you, your loved ones, by making the wrong decisions, which don't just impact you, they impact everyone around you. So it becomes very scary. But I do like to play the game now with worst case scenario. So if I look at the worst case scenario of something in my mind that could potentially go wrong, and I look at other occasions in my life where I've done that, and I've not done things because of the worst case scenario being a possibility, and then I look at all that evidence that none of that stuff happened. So therefore you were prevented from doing something you knew you were capable of achieving because of fear. And that's where now I question things and I challenge the ego to say, you're wrong. And it's not even a case of the ego being wrong or you being right. It's a case of, we really don't know how this is going to play out. But the only thing that will give me the evidence whether I was right or wrong is by doing it. And that seems to be working for me, not in a sense of it's getting me further along or I'm earning more money, because none of that stuff happening. But what is happening is I'm working stuff out as I go along. I'm learning as a person. I'm growing at magnitude. I'm growing all the time as a person. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of the decisions that I've made over the last 12 months, because I'm sat in my sauna now. And for the last 6 months, I have been able to enjoy hosting sauna sessions for groups and for individuals. And it's just expanding all of the time. And for me, being able to create a space where people come and you can visibly see the impact it's having on them is so, so powerful. And each person takes something different from the session, whether they come to chill out, relax, connect with friends, or whether on a deeper level they've come to search within themselves to look a bit deeper at what's going on, how they're living their lives, how am I showing up in the world, what could I be doing better, who do I want to become, how does that person behave, and being able to drop little nuggets for people to digest and process and think about whilst they're submerged in the sauna and the cold tubs. Again, it's been amazing. And I look forward now. I look forward to where I'm heading. And that's not with a sense of desperation or with a sense of I need to be somewhere that I'm not, because I'm enjoying where I am. And there's some things happening where, again, it's out of my control, but at the same time, it's scary because I don't know how these things are going to play out. I don't know how that's going to look for me. But I know myself, who I am. And I read something the other day, what others think of you is reputation, and what you know about yourself is the truth. And for me, truth matters more than anything, any reputation that you build or that you lose, because again, that is feeding into the ego. And I feel as a society, we are guilty of building each other's egos, whether that's through compliments or even when we're trying to be nice to someone. Are we actually helping that person by saying, well done, you were brilliant? Because that inflates the ego, which then means every time you do it thereafter, you're looking for that same dopamine hit of, I want someone to tell me I've done well. I want someone to tell me I'm good. And really that is inflating our ego. There's so many things that I've learned over the last 12 months. And looking back, if someone had tried to convince me that the things that I now know and believe and feel are right and that I was wrong 12 months ago, I wouldn't believe you, because they are unteachable lessons where you have to go through the process yourself to understand it and then be able to see that that is actually so true. And there's something that I feel like is an unteachable lesson that I'm actually hoping to be able to navigate without having gone through the process itself. And there's something that a lot of people talk about when they reach success, or their version of success mountain, which involves having lots of money and being able to afford lots of materialistic things, is that they all say the same thing, that once they get there, they realize that it was never about that. It was always about what's going on inside. So for me, as I step into a big change in my life, which in the short term will definitely involve taking a drop down in my finances, I'm hoping that I can find a place where I know that the person that I will become from living far more in alignment with the life that I know I want to live will in turn mean that I can learn that lesson without having to have gone through that process itself. And I feel like at the start when I was doing the podcast and I wanted it to be about sponsorship so that I can earn money from the podcast and just do the podcast, would potentially have been, looking back, not the best outcome for me, because I've had to learn the hard way that we don't give up on stuff that we believe in. And that's helped me so much to become the person I am now, because now I do the podcast from the energy that it needs, where I do it from a place of love and freedom and with the intention of doing nothing other than helping others. So now that the podcast is established and it's helping people, then I'm able to sit back and just enjoy that and talk for a bit about some of the stuff that I've learned. And if that helps someone who's stuck in a position where they don't feel like they can leave their job because of the money, think of that worst case scenario. And if the worst case scenario involves still being okay, then what's there to worry about? Because if I jump and I see where I land, I dust myself off, and then I've got my platform to build from again. But I've removed all of that stuff that I was holding on to from not being happy and knowing deep down that I was missing all these opportunities where I was being shown that I was living out of alignment. And you can only see that so many times before you realize, if not now, then when. And you're left in a position where you think, what is the worst that could happen if I just take the jump and see where I land? And I'm excited, to say the least, to see where I go next, because the moment that I do that and I step into the unknown truthfully, I believe that my life will open up beyond any idea that I have of what life could look like. So let's see what happens next. It's very exciting. I'm very grateful to everyone. I've got everything I need in life. Just see where the wind takes me.